So, hi and welcome to this second part of the third chapter. In this part we will talk a bit about the flaw in the system. It was one of the first things that caught my attention when I was reading the book, and it's something that is valid on both the personal and the collective level. Bohm here points out how thought and perception work together, how a flaw in the system enters our perception and is the cause of so much of the problems that rises out of the activity of humanity. In this way, he links together thought, perception, flaw in the system, and of course proprioception, that is the way that we are supposed to be able to be aware of this. But in this video we will look at the flaw in the system mainly. In a way I think it's both so extraordinarily obvious that humanity as a whole is pursuing life in a very sad way, while at the same time we are not able to point out why this is so. If we look at the dark side of our history, of course the dark side is still going on, but we see so much that is hard to explain. To put it mildly, it's just a bit too much. In a way it's hard to accept or admit the extent to which we are causing trouble, and to the extent that we are willing to overlook the consequences of what we are doing. But, on the other hand, perhaps we are not to blame. There might be forces stronger than we think involved. Be that as it may, this video will discuss the difference or the tension between, on one hand, how intelligence is operating and how thought is operating and developing a flaw in itself. We have this sensitivity to intelligence that is possible in our present tense thinking. We are thinking now, and we are able to be sensitive to what is intelligent, if we put it that way. Or we can have this thought, or the flaw in thought, operating and even justifying it. So I have selected 9 ways in which the system operates in a flawed way. If this list were applied to ideas in general, if we pick an idea that I have or you have or that we have in common in society, the flaws can indicate in what area these ideas will go wrong or why they are going wrong, and they will shed light on what we could possibly look at it differently. They can point out why unwanted consequences begin to appear. So the first we have the fact that thought is limited, and this part is responsible for a lot of inconsistent behavior. If I want something and I'm not sensitive towards intelligence or what is missing, the fact that everything hangs together, that will of course have consequences. So I will be able to act in a very forceful way and disregard what comes out of it. We get results we don't want. We can look at the world where it's so obvious. We have the oil industry, we have the escalation of armaments, what is happening to the rainforests. We are emptying the oceans of fish. All of this are but a few examples of where we are highly active and we don't want the results of our actions. Our daily lives are full of this, overlooking the consequences for what we want. If we didn't think like this, it would be hard to develop such an active society that we have. We have mass production and everything that is going on involved in it. A lot of people who are sensitive to this, that you cannot overlook the interests of certain people or certain things in nature, they find it very hard to find a place to fit in or to partake in society such as it is, because it feels unethical, wrong, and so forth. Still, we cannot pinpoint what it is that is wrong. We can just protest or say, I don't want to be a part of it. But this first flaw, being insensitive to how things fit together, is what allows us to take such strong action, building cities and traffic and all of these things that obviously are causing a lot of trouble. So that's the first one. The second one is a little bit more subtle. It also has to do with thought being limited, but it is, when we look at facts, we tend to take them out of context. Something that worked in the past, yesterday, last year. So we have a fact, we have something that seems to work well. Yeah? But when we apply it today, the fact is out of context. It means that something that was working yesterday in that context doesn't fit, or perhaps doesn't fit today. So we are applying something that we feel is right, but now we disregard the correct context of it. That is the point. This leads us to apply things in a systematic way. We have the fact, the right thing to do, and we apply it in a systematic way. We come up with words like routine. What's the routine here? Because the routine worked last time. And if this behavior is sustained, which it is, this flaw is responsible for such things as indifference, boredom, industrialism, and we could summarize it as a mechanical application of a principle that seems to work. The third flaw, or the third part of limitation of thought, is also a bit subtle. Bohm calls it overlooking the unknown. The attitude is that, yes, there is something that is not working all right, but eventually it could be cleared up. Somebody will find a way to sort it out. We can get rid of it bit by bit, or eventually we could get rid of the missing pieces. So this allows us for ignoring what is unknown. It's unknown somehow why it doesn't work out properly. He says that healthy thought or healthy thinking is such that it takes the unknown into account. It is expecting it. It knows that there is such a thing. But when we treat the unknown as irrelevant and not something to consider, so this puts us in a position where we don't try to learn about each other. We try to push each other around or get problems out of the way. We don't learn about each other. It's ultimately it's a kind of my way or the highway kind of thinking. And then other similar forceful behaviors come out of it. Something that I have discussed a little bit before is the fact that thought is very active. Besides having all these features, it is very active. It's compensating its limitations with being very active. But being active in this case doesn't help, because to notice what is subtle, or to notice subtlety, is one of the requirements of intelligence. Activity alone is not going to compensate for the faults that we are creating. So this factor has been discussed a bit in chapter 1. So a major contribution is this overly trust in action, in activity, in thinking. It also shows up in what we see in society and the world as a systematic discouragement of intelligence. Intelligence is not allowed, it's looked down upon, and it's seen as a threat because it's going to question this form of operation that is based on this way of thinking. So we see it in society all the time. Intelligence is fought back with violence and restriction, and we must carry on at all cost. We can call this censorship and other names for it, but the intelligence is systematically silenced. And then, number 5, we have another feature that has also been discussed a little bit. So in the first chapter, it's about division and fragmentation. It's preventing us from coming together. We are dividing up rather than coming together, and we perceive each other as separate. It's responsible for forming all sorts of little groups that don't like each other, and it's also responsible for contradictions. So like people who like each other and don't like each other at the same time. Like we have sovereign nations guarding their own interests, simultaneously being dependent on each other for instance, global trading and other sorts that need to function together. This may lead us to supporting dictatorships or being dependent on suspect countries for oil and gas and so forth. So these false boundaries and false unities, they are responsible for such large crises as, or they prevent us from looking at crises like we have now, like the climate crisis, the economic problems, the wars that are going on, and much more. And I think it's a very appropriate words that Bohm put on it. So he calls it false unification. So the people living in one country are supposed to be united, but they have a lot of differences. And then we have false separation, which could be the same example. People globally have similar interests. They are not divided into their nationalities or religions and so forth. So sometimes we see this in civil wars. We see in questions of immigrations and refugees. We are not welcome, we cannot handle, we cannot deal with it. This flaw of division and separation is very strong. It's because it enters our perception. So not only do we have suspicious thoughts, we actually perceive things to be this divided in this way. It's linked to our view of the world. We have borders, we have religions, and of course many more examples could be given. Number 6 is it takes a little bit time to get into why this is a problem, but it's something that develops over a long time. It can be quickly as well, but Bohm says that thought develops or creates things that simply are not there. He gives an example of a small tribe that are impressed by, or like the eagles that live nearby, and they think that their qualities serve a good example for how human beings can think or be. Yeah, so they have this reverence for the ego, and it's a natural thing. It's a form of guide or living together with the animals nearby. So they create a little totem, a piece of wood, and they put it in the middle of the village as an image of what they respect or admire. And then it's taken a step further. They teach their kids to pray to the totem and to show their respect. And the kids learn this, how to pray to the totem. But eventually it might be forgotten how the prayers came about or how they came to be there. So also the links, if you are supposed to pray to the ego, perhaps these prayers fit in other circumstances as well. The eagle is linked to the tribe or the village, and so you can pray for the village, the tribe, the city, the country, and so forth. So it escalates, or it deteriorates, or it changes over time. And eventually we say pray for the borders, protect the borders, pray for your country, and something like that. Yeah, and this fault or this error leads eventually to the tendency to exploit others. If you combine it with division, those who are considered to be outside, we don't pray for them. And it connects with the justification of exploiting others. Exploitation will, of course, come back to punish you. And it's a very long chain of reasoning, but it's still there. It's a form of externalizing your own creations through modifying your perception. You will begin to perceive the others as your enemy, friends or enemies. Then number 7, which is thought as the problem solver, which is coming back again and again. So it has been mentioned in the previous video as well, as a continuous movement where we have externalized our own thinking, our own activity. Thought then engages in tackling the problems. Thought has the impression that it didn't do anything. It may have done something, but then over time what it did seems to have disappeared, and the consequences come back at a later point, and they are perceived as problems out there, economical problems, so forth. The system in this way comes into conflict with itself. But not only that, both the parts, the internal solver and the external problem, both of them, both these views, are contaminated by the same inherent flaw. Bohm is often quoted on this point when he says that what we use to solve our problems is the cause of our problems. Then we have number 8, which is something we'll go into in chapter 4 or 5, I'm not sure. We have the problem of the thinker. It's something that is created by thought, the thinker. Besides not recognizing its consequences, thought says, you did it. You have to solve it. So, if we disregard all of the things that we have mentioned, the flaws in this little video, if we disregard those things, it allows for the me to develop, to seem to be there, to seem to be responsible, to have the responsibility to do something. So you are the thinker, you must do something. So thought is running the show, but at the same time it's saying that you are doing it. Bohm says that furthermore, or besides this, our cultures are held together by thought, categorizing the individual as responsible for what should be done. Mm? Culture is a category of what you should do, what you must do, what you shouldn't do, and what the culture should be like. So, again, the me is something that will be discussed separately and further in a later chapter. So then finally, we have the last point, number 9, which is the vast system itself. The point being like this: if you have a single thought, an idea, an intention, an opinion, a judgment, or a thought about something, it's not at all obvious that this thought is supported by all the various parts of the system. They are actively together generating this thought that you are having. It seems like just a simple idea, like an opinion. Should do something about the garbage, yeah? And it seems like something has just appeared out of nowhere. But overlooking this flaw, or these flaws, makes us go back to number 1 again, where we become active with simple ideas, and we start a form of spiral. We go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. every time a thought appears. It's like a never-ending story, unless we are able to look at it. If we are able to look at it, in spite of the difficulties and the uncomfortable feeling of it, it is possible that we could come up on the hand that is touching the stove. I don't know if you remember that example, but when you touch the stove with your hand, you immediately remove it. We should stop it, what we are doing, at least for the moment. So, personally, as an experiment, I did list them out, and I applied them to a few of my personal problems where I felt stuck. And I was able to see which were the areas that was causing the blocks. What kind of thinking was I having that was blocking me and I was able to connect things in a new way. So that is the way I look at the meaning of separating these flaws, or mapping out the flaws. It can and it will help us to see what behavior is at work and why it is coming back to us as an unwanted problem, and why we see it as something independent of what we are thinking, something that I must act upon, and so forth. Okay, thank you. That was all for now.